for this we had all of this. So yeah, the first one I did not do anymore because of what we should later on only make like random questions, so that one isn't in my programming anymore. Um, yeah, this I made basically all the answers I put in, and this also helped with the hint stage that I made. Change if commands, yeah. So I basically put all the answers into its different categories and put it in, so I could basically, okay, just quickly go down to where it starts, like basically initiate it, and it will basically, if we go down to where the hint is initializing, we can see, yeah, so our hint system basically works. It gets the object, so in other words string, double or integer. It checks if it's an integer. If it is an integer, it says it's a number, because it's easier, because some of the stuff is really weird because most of them are like years. And as well, if it's a string, I said string used, that's basically I create a new string because I can't use substring with an object that I get with it. So I basically put or create a new string called use because it's a string I'm going to use, and I use the object that it said, and I created toString. So yeah, so our hint will basically say the first letter of the string we got from the answer, um, then it will say the first letter and then say the word is, and also give the length of the word. So we can see this here where we initialize it with the answer of this method. So then we can see um, where we put a double in case, because science 2 is a double, because it's 9.81 that we can see here. We could have also made this if guessed equals science 2, so we could have made it like this, and then it will check if it is the same. So yeah, this I also made if answer equals true, because of, wait, where did I, okay, I've also forgot to do this. It's basically for the extended one that we needed to make a poison. I made a method called poison down here. Where is that now? Poison. So every time we start a new one or a new question, it basically calls up poison with boom answer. It starts with true, and then we will basically get a random number, and we basically get between 1 and 50. So yeah, so in other words, if the number is less than 50, then it will basically take um, 50 marks away from the person who is busy or whose round it is, and then return false. And if return false, it basically skips the guy's turn and he can't answer, and then say if else return true. This we can see, let's take it here. So if answer comes back as true, I also forgot to put in here the poison. Uh, yeah, I think I forgot most of them to put in the poison, but yeah. So if poison, wait. So if the poison comes back as true, it will basically say answer equals true. Then it will give the person its turn. So if he gets correct, then it will give right and will initiate right. And as we can see here, right basically checks whose turn it is and plus 100 to that person's turn. The this that I basic This is basically how I change the turns. So basically, if it's a one person's turn, make it the second person's turn. If it's the second person's turn, become the first person's turn again. And we can see here, if you get a question wrong, you initiate turn, and therefore it basically brings him down here and gives the next person its turn. I also created the two methods wrong and right. So each time you get a question right, you will basically get plus 100 points, depends on whose turn it is. And if you get a wrong answer, you will basically minus whoever turns it is. So yeah, here's my bonus question that I went through. I basically created a new int bet and then say how much you want to bet. So he puts in how much he wants to bet. String guess will then give the question, who is the best programmer in computer science block E, and then he will check whose turn it is and minus the amount that he bet of his score, and then if he answers correct, that's Andre obviously, uh, then it will give double the marks. So in other words, how much he put in as well as another of the same amount. So yeah, so here it basically checks again whose turn it is, and so it can basically say who gets the score. So yeah, I also went with the random questions, um, but I made it. Let's go to the top. Yeah. So for here, you can see button sign. So if you press on the signs button, it will initiate a random math, basically three. So if it's the first one, it will initiate the first science method. If it's one, it will initiate the second science method, that's science one, and else if it's two, it will initiate science two. So I did this basically for every single one of them. So each time it clicks, it goes to random one, and play again is still okay. I created a score 2, because, or score 1, that's basically player two's score, because if you press this one, it needs to, yeah, it needs to set the score back to 0. So yeah, so the text box starts with nothing. Um, so yeah, then science, initiate hint, here's the poison, here's basically the input that the user gives with the hint that I already told about. Here it checks if it's correct. Here I put in ignore case. I hard coded this answer because of yeah, because it can be different stuff, as well as here you can see the case string. If it's the first or the first three numbers is correct, yeah, so I say if he guessed the first three letters equal to science string the first three letters, then it's correct, as well as he needs to also have the last three letters. Um, so yeah, that's the long thing over there. Um, then I forgot to do it over here and here. Here's the other way I did it. So if it equals Einstein Albert or Albert Einstein, here I put in ignore case to ignore capital letters and small letters. So you can basically type in anything here. It just needs to be the right word. It can be all capitals, non-capitals, and so forth. So yeah, for each one I also put in, so if it's right, it gets, it initializes right, gives you more points, and output right. If guessed contains this, so in other words, if he guessed and the word is basically in his guess, it will say try again and reinitialize this method. Um, yeah, and then if it's wrong, then it will say initiate wrong, minus your points, and output wrong, and say and give the second person its turn. So yeah, I do not think I got time to where is that to put this in every single question, but here is one of the examples I put it in. So what string commands make non-capital, I already showed that. Except the answer as long as the first three and last three, already showed that. Part of the current in the answer correct. Okay, so this I already think I showed. Basically create player 1 and player 2. Yeah, I used the turn method that I already showed to basically switch turns, and yeah. Um, text field, yeah, I already created text field and stuff like that. Change the program player question correct. You can, yeah. So to do this, I basically said took out the turn if you're wrong, so, or if you're right. So if you're right, it doesn't switch turns. The poison one I added with the random one. The daily double I had the one with the bet, and also 3 questions I did with this randomizer in here. So if we compile, we can quickly let's check what's wrong here. Uh, um, Compile, and then we can go into this and run it. And okay, so yeah, so this is the 4 question, score A, score B, and then you can science, and then it's what is the force of gravity. Okay, yeah, this one is like a problem. Let's see how much rugby. It's a number. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, this one is correct. What is the year the Cold War end? And then you can type in a number, then it will say wrong, minus marks. Okay, let's try one of this again. So yeah, it worked so far, I know. Just a problem with the finding out if it's a number or a word, but this is probably a problem that I forgot to type in the right which answer you should give. So yeah, so that's the only problem, but as far as the extensions come, I did all of them and it worked some point through the exercise.